I'm Gerald Bentley. This is Wrestling with Sales. We're here on the Wrestling Spotlight channel, and we are joined by international pro wrestling star right now, Thom Latimer. You can see Thom Latimer in the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA, coming soon. The new season starts February 6th on the CW app. Thom, thanks a lot for joining us. We've been kind of communicating for a little while. Obviously, you got to spend the holidays in Britain, so
I
first
did,
chance
yeah.
we've had to get together. Thanks for stepping in.
No, thank you. No, yeah, going back to the UK was it was nice to see my family, but the wife told me, Kaylee said, as long as you find me a warm gym, I'll be happy. Put it this way, I didn't find a warm gym at all. Every gym we went to was freezing cold, so it was
Yeah.
it was okay. Well, it could have been better, but
Well, obviously it's different, right? Because
oh,
everything's
we just
it's not
we
the US. Everything isn't as spread out.
we just love being miserable in the UK. That's what we figured out. Everything is just extra hard, and Brits just like to be miserable. So I think maybe it's because obviously Kaylee's American, and I've lived here for 13, 14 years, right? So I'm
Mhm.
American as they come. So when we do go back to the UK, it's still quite shocking how uh, hard everything that doesn't need to be hard is. Like there's just like an extra level of misery that British people must love to go through for no reason.
Well, I'll have to consult with you before we travel up to cover All In London
Oh,
coming up in August.
yeah.
Get some advice.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll sort you out.
But now you're back. It's time to get going. And besides the National Wrestling Alliance kicking off their new season, you have a new venture yourself. I got the picture up in the background, Hatchet Wrestling School. What made you decide to get into running a wrestling school, to being a trainer?
It's something that I started about 5 or so years ago. I'd left Impact Wrestling. I'd gone back to the UK and I'd spent about a year there independently wrestling because at that time there was a lot of independence. I wasn't connected to any big promotion. I needed to make a living. So I went back to the UK for a year and wrestled, probably for just over a year. And then I needed a reason to come back. And luckily, the NBA was starting at that time. And then a friend of mine, Crimson, he was running a wrestling school in Clarksville in Tennessee. And it's kind of funny actually because Sam Dexter Loomis, who's on the
Hmm.
screen there, he was actually going to run that school, but he got signed by WWE at that time. So I just slid into Sam's spot and
Okay.
started training people at Crimson's Tried and True Pro Wrestling School. And it was the first kind of time that I'd done that. Besides doing seminars and things like that, it was the first time I actually properly trained, other than dropping into someone else's place for 3 hours,
Yeah.
And it was something that I mean, I kind of figured that I would enjoy it, and I did, and it was something that you got to think too. I'm 37, 38 now. I can't think how old I am, but I don't have long left, right? And I still want to give back and be part of the job. And so I kind of feel like, when I started doing that 5 years ago, it was a good little way to be able to transition to helping the next crop of people come up and still use the things that I've learned, my trials and tribulations and everything that I've picked up through the years to sort of give back and help the next lot of people. So I was doing that for him for a couple of years until COVID hit. And then when that hit, that school never recovered. And then I briefly went to another wrestling school, another place in Tennessee that was ran as well with Jerry Lynn. But we quickly found out that it wasn't it wasn't to be. It wasn't what we expected, put it that way. So
Hmm.
we all dipped pretty much straight away. And then Sam had been wanting to open up his wrestling school for a while. John Davis is another guy that's going to be coaching as well as me and Sam. And I think that Sam values me and John's work ethic and the way that we think about the business and the places that we've been.
Sure.
And of course, being friends too. And so he wanted to open up a wrestling school. It's in St. Augustine, Florida, right next door to Jacksonville. It's sort of an untapped market, more or less. There isn't, to our knowledge, there isn't any of the wrestling schools or promotions out there, at least nothing that's kind of major. And so I think it's another way for, for us to be able to get together and grow and build something, good. And so he just wanted to pull the plug and get going on it right away. And so, it was kind of a no-brainer once I was offered the position to be able to come in and help him out. Then, I also have had about a year off training people and things like that, and I kind of needed a bit of a break because I got burnt out with the second school that I went to, because it turned out to unfortunately not be what it said on the tin. And so, I think now is a good time for me mentally to be able to go back into that positively and be happy and be able to give the kids what they need. Because you know what it's like when you get burnt somewhere, it kind of puts you off.
Sure.
But I know that going into business with Sam, with Dexter Loomis and John, these guys think just like me. We want the best for the business, and I think it's going to be, pretty special and something different and unique. And the thing about the three of us too is you've got Sam, who's with WWE, you've got me that's with the NWA, you got John, who's kind of like the king of the independents. And so we're hoping that the three of us combined would make a nice sort of well-rounded ball of information to be able to give to people, considering we're from different backgrounds, we've been taught by different people.
Sure.
And we're all still active too, which can down the line facilitate possibly in obviously helping the kids once they get to a level be able to have a look somewhere instead of trying to figure it out for themselves. So that's sort of like a rough sort of explanation of sort of the last 5 years of me getting into wrestling and us wanting to open the school and things like that.
Well, as a dealer, you spend a lot of time buying cars at auction. If you're using Edge Pipeline to manage your purchases, then this is big news. Montway Auto Transport has partnered with Auction Edge to add a transportation option onto Edge Pipeline. Now dealers can manage their auction buys and book transportation with just one click right in the Edge Pipeline platform. As a nationwide leader in auto transport, Montway understands a dealer's need for speed and efficiency and can arrange single or multi-vehicle moves from auction to any lot in the country. With Montway's technology, dealers can gain full transit visibility and tracking after an order has been booked, making it much easier to manage inventory. Buy, ship, and track all in Edge Pipeline. Go to www.montway.com/WS to learn more. Well, and I think it's really reflective too, because a lot of people go through that. Sometimes it's good to take a step back and get a
Oh,
chance to look at something with new eyes. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I'm sure even just when you got into the NWA, when that kicked back off and you were in that faction, the Strictly Business with Nick Aldis, now over in the WWE, and Camille, and you guys had a chance to really kind of develop a story, develop characters, and then as that segged away, you're back to being a high level single star. So you've done a little bit of everything. You've been in the tag team, you've been in the faction, you've been a main event person, you are a main event person. So that has to help when you're talking to people just getting going, people wanting to break in, because you can literally address every aspect of pro wrestling to them.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think that coming from the UK, I was taught by some World of Sport veterans. Both
Mhm.
have passed away now, but Drew McDonald and Jeff Kay, and when I started training when I 17, 18 with them, I learned all the British style pro wrestling. I mean, I grew up obviously just watching WWF, so I had no idea that type of wrestling even existed. I had no idea what the World of Sport was or who any of these British legends were that I've kind of, grew up to sort of idolize and watch later on down the line when I realized I needed to be a pro wrestler and know what I was doing. And so there's a level of that too, where I've been taught that I don't do that now anymore. I'm a guy that punches and kicks, but I have been trained in all that, and I do, and that's something as well that I like and enjoy to be able to show, because it's not going to be something that suits me and my character and how I wrestle. But it's good to know all that stuff, and it's good to be able to show all that stuff. And if you're a pro wrestler too, or trained to be a pro wrestler, you should, even if you don't need to do it, or even if your character wouldn't do it, you should still learn how to do it. You know, not everyone obviously needs to do a Canadian destroyer or whatever, but I'm just talking about, you know, if you're a 10-foot guy, you ain't going to be doing a sunset flip, but you should still learn how to do and take one, even if you never do. And so learning the British style and having that in my back pocket is always very, very handy. And then also going through the WWF system, WWE system, TNA, now NWA, and then Sam's kind of doing the same thing, and then John with all the FIP, Evolve, Dragon Gate, things like that. You know, I think that all that is very valuable in regards to how it was working there, how we got there, all the steps that we took to be able to get to that point. The people that we learned from, which was, from Dusty Rhodes, Norman Smiley, Joey Mercury, Dr. Tom, Bill DeMott, Jeff Cage, Rick McDonald, and then everyone else we've wrestled to, because you end up picking things up off the people that you wrestle. And then also sort of the trials and tribulations of it. Like, I've had my ups and downs in my career, a lot of things that I regret, and also to be able to explain that and tell that to people, because we're all, I mean, I deal with it now, even at the NWA, but like people don't think before they do a lot, and I didn't, right? And a lot of that stuff has come back to haunt me and burn me, right? And in today's wrestling world, you have to be squeaky clean, and you have to, if you're about to, even a tweet, you have to double check that this isn't going to upset someone somehow, right? Because that tweet, even though it might be completely valid in today's world, in 10 years' time, that situation might have changed, and what you're about to tweet might. So, and that's the world we live in. So, from all my expectations and the ups and downs of my career, the highs and the lows, at least there's also someone there that can say, "Hey, don't do this, don't do that. Try to not do this. This can affect you here, and this thing that you just did in 10 years' time will affect this person and this person." So there's definitely a level of that too. Like, it's not just being a pro wrestling school and teaching wrestling. It's almost a bit like, you become a therapist or an agony aunt, and you're building a family in a place that people can go and feel safe, and know that and they can trust you. And so there's a lot more to it than just snatching a headlock. So I guess my point is, it's good that we've all had a different way and journey that we can all explain. And if
absolutely,
if you do everything right, you'll end up like Dexter Loomis, you'll end up like Sam. And if you do everything wrong, you'll end up like me, but you might be all right.
well, and that, again, it's something that's true in everything. I mean, you really do have to watch out what you're doing, because now everyone is a media person, right? You didn't have to go to school for journalism. You don't need access to a TV channel. I mean, everyone has Facebook, they have Twitter, X, they have Instagram, and like you said, something you said 5 years ago may come up and be an issue maybe when you're getting ready to get an offer from WWE, from AEW, from the NWA, from TNA.
Yeah.
So that is something that has to be taught to everyone, that, hey, look, you're getting into this. You're a professional athlete, so everything you say has to be professional. You
Right.
can't you can't push it too far.
And that's a tough thing to explain, especially to younger people. Because if you have told me the same thing when I was a youngster, I'd have laughed in your face. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't know anything. Everyone has to figure it out and learn and make mistakes and learn from them themselves. But ultimately, there's just a lot more high risk situations that you can stumble into nowadays, completely oblivious, and not searching for any of these things, but it's kind of like you do have to explain and go above board on how you should try and act and be. Again, I like to relate, go back to the tweet thing, but it's just like before you do and say anything, how is this going to be perceived? Is this going to rub anyone the wrong way? Am I getting my point across here? Could this be twisted? And unfortunately, when you, like I say, you're a youngster, you don't think that way. Don't worry about it. But it's definitely something that it needs to be spoken about. I can't control what they do and what they say, but at least I can give them some form of reason to think before doing.
Sure. And is the mental aspect, would you say the mental aspect is as important as the physical aspect?
Yes, I'd say that the professional wrestling, I feel like, has obviously changed a lot over the years. How I was brought up, how my friends were brought up in the job would be outrageous now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a level of you have to have thick skin. The wrestling job has changed, so that kind of thing doesn't happen or isn't acceptable or normalized as much as it was.
Yeah, I mean, a locker room fight now is national news that's still being talked about 6 months after the fact,
Well, there's
whereas
that.
it used to be
Right.
Monday.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons to it because you have to have thick skin for this. Again, going back to, and I'm using Twitter a lot here, but you go into pro wrestling, you don't realize, oh, I'm going to be judged, and people are going to give me their opinion on me 24/7, whether I ask for it or not. People are going to critique every little thing that I do that have no, and I, even though they've got no business and no stock in what I do, how I look, things like that. They're going to say it, and it doesn't matter who you are. We're all human. It all can and will hurt unless you are unless you're good at being able to stay away from looking at things. And a lot of people struggle with that.
Sure.
And it's just part of it. It's an unfortunate part of it that you are going to get. You could be the best wrestler or the best whatever in the world, and people will find fault with you no matter what. You can't win everybody over. And so you do need to have thick skin when it comes to, and that's just one part of it, besides the politics and besides the people that you're going to have to deal with and all that kind of stuff. So there's a level of the fact that the business has got better. I think that, say, backstage at a lot of these places, I hear anyway, I can't talk for them, but I just presume and hear that the performance center and all these other sorts of places are a lot nicer compared to how when I was there, or say when other people were there in Deep South and this and that. From what you hear, it's a lot more. They've got to be a bit more corporate, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that could also not be a good thing. Meaning, if trying to think of the right word to word it here, but ultimately, if you're not having people, if you're not helping them get thick skin, then the chances of them getting upset or things going wrong or mental health and things like that
Yeah.
is
Greater.
probably slightly more heightened because you're not used to these issues and you're not dealing with this guy and putting up with this and doing this and that. I don't know. It's like it's a double-edged sword because there's pros and cons to each of it.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer for it. I think that a working environment should be a safe, friendly, nice place. But I do think that it does make it harder and can kind of make people slightly weaker in other avenues because they're not going through any of these hardships.
Yeah. I mean, just in the news this week, tremendous wrestler, Deonna Purrazzo, the virtuosa. She made her debut in AEW and just was savaged on Twitter and Facebook, and all the body shaming, people insulting her, a lot of really mean spirited comments, and it's just so wrong, but you do need to have that thick skin because it's not just the people within, it's the people without. And I think what was rewarding is there were more people, including a lot of people within the wrestling industry, that stepped up and were giving supporting statements to Deanna Peraza and standing up for her and really telling people, hey, just stop, just go away.
I think that anyone that needs to say unnecessary things that are not nice, they all feel not nice. I know
Hmm.
I was an alcoholic, and when I was drinking, and I was angry, and I hated everybody, and it was, f everybody, because.
Yeah,
But what it really was, was f me. Like, I hated me, but I couldn't see that, so I took it out on everybody else. I hate
sure.
everyone. You all suck. F the world. And all that was because I hated me. And I definitely think there's a level of that on the internet where a lot of these people that throw a lot of hate and a lot of things that are unnecessary, that aren't going to do anything positive, probably don't have very good lives themselves. Um, I also think that, and my dad told me this when I was a kid, and it's always stuck with me. But he said, "Tom, if you've got nothing good to say nothing at all." And that's definitely something that I try and stick to. Again, it's it's a weird world that we live in now, because back in the day, if you were to wrestle on TV, you would have to search it out by finding a newspaper or watching something on TV,
Yeah,
or or going deep down a rabbit hole on a wrestling forum. And now, when you wake up in the morning, it's there for you to see whether you want it or not.
yeah,
I mean, you can obviously opt out, but in the wrestling job, you can't really opt out of social media and all these other sorts of things, because it's just part of the job now. It's part of everyday life. So it's unfortunate, and I think that, like, I just want to go back to it, and I think that everyone should think about it. Is, if you've got nothing good to say nothing at all.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, it's just there, and unfortunately, there's so much negativity. That's going to be something where people have to be able to hold on to it because you can't let a couple of negative people online get get you down because
It's
that's
hard
a
though.
that's a vast minority. But when that's all you're seeing, it can become the majority. So that's something
Yeah.
that's definitely part of the training process now.
I also wonder if there's a day where, I know free speech is free speech, and I'm all for free speech,
Yeah,
but um, I wonder if there'll ever be a day, though, besides, if there's a day where whatever you say on the internet, it's a bit like, say, Twitter, right? If you had
yep,
to, get a blue tick and verify and have your address out there and all these other sorts of things, you wonder how many people would still be saying these things. I
sure.
think there's the level of the fact you can hide behind a wall. There's a level of that. There's a level of it not being real because it's the internet.
Hmm.
There's a lot of these other sorts of weird situations that make it feel like it's probably okay to do for people. I think a lot of them too are immature. There's probably a lot of immature people in there, and there's
Yeah,
probably a lot of people also out there, that have mental health problems themselves and all these other sorts of things. So, because this is it, you don't know. There's no vetting of each people and their background and what they're saying to verify whether you should take it personally or not. You know what I'm saying?
sure. Absolutely.
Like
100%.
let's just say there was, something happened with me, and there was a doctor on Twitter that was, saying a bunch of stuff that I didn't like. I'd, think that his advice is, maybe I should think about XYZ, because he's a doctor. But most of these people or whatever, they're not. They're just
Yeah.
or they're bots, or they're nothing. But it
Yep.
is an incredibly hard thing to be able to, um, uh, you know, um, to dodge. It's a minefield, because even the positive ones, that who's to say that a bunch of positive ones aren't going to go to your head,
Sure. True.
and then it's
Yeah.
going
There's a
to
balance.
in a way and this and that. So it's a very, very strange place we are in humanity right now. None of this has happened before. This is the first time I think, ever in our existence or in humanity's existence where we've had to deal with these things, where there's no laws in place yet. You know, you can do something that seems highly illegal, you know, whether it be sort of, you
Yeah,
know,
libel, slanderous. Yeah, it's
you know, or where
okay
you
because you're hiding.
money and things like that, or you
Hmm.
pretend to be someone, and there's no law for it. So technically, they're not breaking any laws, but it's not. It's, you know, if you've got morals, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's. I think a lot is going to have to change, and it probably will in time.
Well, getting in a little deep and philosophical here, but
No, it's
which is fine.
you
I wanted to, as we were kind of winding down, I wanted to ask you, what would you say for somebody that's young, somebody that's just getting going? Like, last week we had on the people from Northland Pro, which is a younger promotion with a lot of people in their first, second year. What's the one thing that those people should focus on? They're 1, 2 years into wrestling.
Patience. Patience. There's in the job, like there's a saying, "Hurry up and wait." Um, you've got to be very patient in this job. I know people. I've been wrestling since I was 16. I'm 38 now, so whatever that is, 20 something years.
Yeah,
There's
22.
people that broke in around the same time as me, and they've only just the past few years got hired by WWE, right? And so, if that's your goal, then it probably should be you should want to go to the number one promotion and make the most money you can.
Sure.
That is a no-brainer, especially the money thing. It doesn't need to be WWE, but it needs to be where you can make money, because breaking your back for this business and being broke by the end of it isn't worth it. But patience, because it takes as long as it takes. And then I'd also say don't give up. You have to have a level of not being delusional. You have to realize, okay, well, you know, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'm not going to, or maybe I'm 40 years old, WWE is going to take a chance on me, things like that, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, the second you give up, you've knackered it, right? If those guys that I know quit a couple of years ago, even though they've been wrestling, 15, 16 years at that point, they still never would have made it to WWE, right? So if you throw enough shit at the wall, it'll stick. So patience, timing, not giving up, and being consistent too, meaning go to the gym, eat your healthy meals, reach out to promotions, stay back after help tear down the ring,
Hmm.
show your worth, show them that you're hungry and that you want it. And control all the things that you can do. You can control going to the gym. You can control how you look. You can control what gear you get, things like that. Everything that's in your control, you should try to control. The rest of it, is just luck, timing, and being patient.
Yeah. All true and all applicable to really just about any line of work. And if you can
Right.
control those things, do those things that are free. Like it doesn't cost anything to work hard. It doesn't
But
cost anything to listen.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Well, hey, let me ask you. It's coming up soon, February 6th. NWA Paranoia coming to the CW. How do you feel about a new season coming up in the National Wrestling Alliance?
Well, I'll just
I know
tell.
we don't want to give it away, but you
Yeah,
got me kind of excited getting onto a new
yeah.
platform, bigger audience, bigger venue.
We actually filmed that this weekend just gone.
Yeah.
So it was good. I won't give you any spoilers, but my match with Brian Idol is probably one to watch.
Okay.
But it's definitely one that got me into trouble with the wife. She's like, I can't believe you. So just you'll understand why when you see it. But no, of course, CW, got on the CW app. It's exciting. I don't really know. I'm a wrestler. I wrestled. That's what I do. When
Yeah.
it comes to logistics, business, this and that, I couldn't tell you what the overall census is. I do know that it's a positive step up and a move away from YouTube and things like that. So I can only hope that it will continue to grow and things that will go well on the app, because who knows, maybe that's the gateway to the CW station.
Sure. Sure.
So I think it's just baby steps. After COVID, we've definitely been taking little baby steps, and sometimes that's the best way to be, because sometimes when you take a big stride, you'll slip on a rock.
Yeah.
So, I think baby steps, but I'm excited for it. And I think we're slowly having now transition away from YouTube, away from Fight, just to go solely on the CW app. So if you're an NWA fan, definitely download the app, because I think that'll be pretty much the only way to see powers and all pay-per-views and things.
Well, it's going to be a big change, and I know there's been a lot of work put in by lots of people, so that'll be good to see. And then just finally, as we're wrapping it up, you got the school starting up. Where can people find out more about Hatchet Pro Wrestling?
HatchetProWrestling.com. On my Instagram, Thomas_Latimer_. On my Twitter too, which is the same, Thomas_Latimer_. There's a Hatchet Pro Wrestling Twitter as well. There's a Hatchet Pro Wrestling Instagram. So, and then you'll also find me at the school. So,
Okay. Awesome.
It's on the website, so you come get yourselves involved.
Great. Well, hey, Thom, thanks a lot for joining us here and stepping in.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Look forward to speaking with you again, and stay tuned to Wrestling Spotlight to see more.
Thanks, man.